Nissan just posted a loss of $4.5 billion in a single year. The company that stuffed every rental lot and every subprime loan office in America with the cheapest cars they could get away with building is finally going broke. 9,000 workers cut, factories shutting down, a stock price slashed in half. The press is calling it a crisis. It is not a crisis. It is a verdict. Nissan owners have been sold defective transmissions the company knew about for years, watched their cars lose a third of their value before the first service appointment, and paid dealer markups designed to bleed them dry from day one. But how did this happen? How did a company that was selling over 1 million cars a year in America end up begging Honda for a bailout that never came? If you had asked anyone in the auto industry about Nissan 5 years ago, they would have told you the brand was fine. Selling over 1 million vehicles a year in the United States alone, dealerships on every other block, one of the most recognizable names in the car business. Nobody saw this coming. But the numbers do not lie. And right now, the numbers are ugly. Nissan's operating loss for fiscal year 2024 landed at over $3.6 billion. Revenue fell almost 4% year over year. And the company burned through cash so fast that credit agencies slashed their ratings, and Wall Street analysts started openly asking if Nissan could even survive another 12 months on its own. I mean, think about that for a second. A company that was once worth over $40 billion is now valued at less than some tech startups run out of a garage. Investors who held Nissan stock watched more than 60% of their money evaporate in under a year. And the response from Nissan's leadership was exactly what you would expect from a company in panic mode. They started shutting down plants. They slashed production schedules at factories in Tennessee and Mississippi. They announced 9,000 layoffs worldwide. And behind closed doors, the board went scrambling for a lifeline, trying to find anyone willing to merge with them or buy them outright. Honda was in merger talks for months and then walked away. Foxconn showed interest and backed off. When even the companies willing to sit down at the table start heading for the door, you know the situation is worse than the press releases are telling you. But here's the detail that everyone missed at the time. Nissan did not end up here because of some sudden market crash or a string of bad luck. This rot started over a decade ago inside the corner office of one man. Carlos Ghosn ran Nissan for almost 20 years, and on paper, his strategy looked like genius. He slashed costs everywhere he could find them, from supplier contracts to engineering budgets to the materials going into the vehicles themselves. And then he flooded the market. Ghosn dumped tens of thousands of Nissan vehicles into rental car fleets and corporate fleets every single year just to keep the sales figures looking healthy on the quarterly reports. It was like throwing a party every weekend and counting the empty bottles to prove you are popular. The numbers looked great. The reality behind them was hollowed out, because what all those fleet sales actually did was train an entire generation of buyers to see Nissan as the brand you settle for. You did not walk into a Nissan dealership because you wanted a Nissan. You walked in because they were offering $4,000 off the sticker and 0% financing stretched over 72 months when your credit was not strong enough for anything else. And every year Nissan pushed more volume through fleets, the brand image eroded a little more. Rental car companies were returning thousands of Rogues and Altimas into the used market at rock-bottom prices, which dragged down the resale value for every Nissan owner who paid full price at a dealership. Every single rental return, every fleet dump, every fire sale knocked the resale value down a little bit more. And pretty soon, owning a Nissan meant watching your car lose a third of its value the second you drove it off the lot. Ghosn built the whole thing on sand. And then in 2018, he got arrested on financial misconduct charges and literally fled Japan hidden inside a box on a private jet. The man who was supposed to be Nissan's savior became an international fugitive. And the executives who came after him, they inherited a brand that was already gutted from the inside. Now, Nissan could have stopped here. They didn't. The leaders who replaced Ghosn had every chance to fix this, and they blew it. Hiroto Saikawa took over as CEO and lasted barely a year before resigning over his own compensation scandal. He changed nothing. He did not invest in new products. He just kept the machine running exactly the way Ghosn designed it, hoping nobody would notice. Then Makoto Uchida stepped in with big promises. He announced a turnaround plan called Nissan Next back in 2020. New models, better profit margins, a leaner company focused on quality. It sounded great in the press release. None of it actually happened the way it was supposed to. The new vehicles were late. The ones that did arrive felt like they were designed 5 years too early and launched 5 years too late. While Toyota was perfecting hybrids and Hyundai was winning design awards left and right, Nissan was still rolling out the same tired lineup with the same cheap interiors. And the EV push? They had the Leaf for over a decade and never built on it. They hyped up the Ariya as their big electric answer, and it landed with delayed launches, software glitches, and a sticker price that put it head-to-head with Tesla without any of the charging network or brand loyalty to back it up. If Nissan had stopped digging here, this would be a very different story. Instead, Uchida eventually stepped down in 2025 after the Honda merger collapsed and the losses kept stacking up. That is 3 CEOs in 6 years, each one promising a fresh start, each one leaving the brand worse off than before. Honestly, I think if you ran a landscaping company this badly, you would be out of business in 18 months. Nissan kept going just long enough to lose billions. And somehow, it gets worse. Because while all the leadership chaos was happening at the top, the actual product Nissan was selling to real people kept getting worse and more expensive at the same time. Consumer Reports dropped Nissan's reliability scores below the industry average. J.D. Power kept ranking them in the bottom half for initial quality year after year. And the biggest problem that every Nissan owner already knows about is the continuously variable transmission. Nissan shoved CVTs into almost every vehicle they made for the better part of a decade, and those transmissions became infamous for shuddering, overheating, and outright failing well before 100,000 miles. Owners were paying $3,000 to $5,000 out of their own pockets for transmission replacements on cars they were still making monthly payments on. And while all of that was happening, Nissan kept raising prices anyway. The average transaction price on a new Rogue crossed $40,000. 40 grand for a compact SUV with a plastic dashboard, outdated tech, and a transmission that might give out before the second owner ever gets the keys. Meanwhile, Toyota was selling the RAV4 with better tech, better reliability, and better resale value for roughly the same money. Honda was doing the same thing with the CR-V. Hyundai was doing it with the Tucson and throwing in a 10-year powertrain warranty just to twist the knife. And Kia was right there with them, offering more car for less money at every price point. The buyers finally figured it out. Nissan was not competing anymore. They were coasting on name recognition and easy loan approvals, and the market stopped rewarding them for it. And this is the part where things stopped being funny. Because the dealership experience at Nissan might be the ugliest chapter in this whole story. Even when Nissan was offering some of the biggest manufacturer incentives in the business, their dealers were clawing that money right back. Markups on sticker prices, add-on protection packages nobody asked for, financing tricks that made the monthly payment look manageable in the office, but ballooned once the buyer actually read the fine print at home. Nissan ranked near the bottom of J.D. Power's customer satisfaction survey for sales experience year after year. And you do not have to look hard to understand why. Picture this. A long-haul trucker in North Carolina walks onto a Nissan lot looking for a Pathfinder he can barely afford. He sits down in the finance office, and the number on the contract comes back almost $200 a month higher than what the sales guy quoted him on the floor. A protection package he never agreed to, dealer markup, and a rate that was not what he was promised. He signs anyway because he needs the car to get his daughter to school. 6 months later, he is 2 payments behind, and the car has already lost enough value that he owes more on the loan than the thing is worth. You would think someone would have said something. Nobody did. Nissan buyers consistently carry some of the highest auto loan default rates among any major brand in the country. The cars just lose value so fast that the loan flips upside down before the first oil change is even due. That is not people being bad with money. That is a product and a dealer system that were designed to extract the maximum amount of cash on the front end and leave the buyer holding the bag. But this was not just about Nissan anymore. Because every single pattern that destroyed Nissan is now spreading across the entire auto industry like a virus. Stellantis, the parent company behind Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram, ran the exact same playbook. Carlos Ghosn slashed quality budgets, jacked up prices, and hoped the brand loyalty would hold. It did not. Jeep Wranglers sat on dealer lots for over 100 days with no buyers. Ram trucks that used to fly off the lot before the stickers were printed started collecting dust. Ghosn was pushed out in 2024 after even the board admitted the pricing strategy was unsustainable, and Stellantis stock dropped off a cliff. The dealers stuck with months of unsold inventory absorbed the losses, while the executives who made those pricing decisions walked away with severance packages worth millions of dollars. Then there is Ford. More than $6 billion in losses on their EV division since 2022. They still cannot build an electric vehicle that costs less to manufacture than it sells for. They were losing roughly $36,000 on every single EV that rolled off the line. General Motors gutted production at its battery plants and laid off workers who were hired specifically for an electric future that keeps getting delayed. The pattern is everywhere you look. Raise the price, cut the quality, dump the inventory on dealer lots, let the finance office figure out how to make some regular person pay for it. And the average new car in America now costs over $49,000. The average monthly car payment has climbed past $730. That is not luxury car territory. Those are the numbers for a base model pickup with cloth seats and a 6-year loan. Can you believe that? Auto loan delinquencies have hit their highest levels in over a decade. More than 6% of subprime auto loans are now 90 or more days past due. Repossessions are climbing every single quarter, and repo lots in states like Texas, Florida, and Georgia are filling up faster than they have since the last financial crisis. And the used car market, which is supposed to be the safety valve for people who cannot swing new car prices, is completely broken too. Used car prices are still inflated from the pandemic supply crunch, and interest rates on used car loans are averaging above 11%. There are families right now earning $70,000 and $80,000 a year who cannot get approved for a new car loan without stretching the term out to 7 or 8 years. That used to be the kind of financing reserved for houses, not sedans. Look, I am not an economist, but when millions of Americans cannot afford the cars they already bought, and the companies building those cars are losing billions of dollars at the same time, something has to break. This is not a rough quarter. This is not a speed bump. The entire industry is barreling toward a cliff with the check engine light on, and nobody behind the wheel willing to touch the brakes. Nissan is just the first one to go over the edge, and if the rest of these automakers do not change course, they will not be far behind.
So what actually happens when a brand like Nissan collapses? Because this is not just a story about stock prices and quarterly earnings. It hits real people in ways nobody talks about until it is too late. If Nissan goes bankrupt or gets absorbed by another company, every active warranty on every Nissan sitting in a driveway right now turns into a question mark. Parts get harder to find almost overnight. The dealer network shrinks, and independent repair shops struggle to source what they need to keep those vehicles on the road. Resale value on every Nissan already in circulation drops even further, which means the people who bought a Rogue or an Altima or a Frontier thinking they were getting a solid daily driver are now stuck with a depreciating asset from a company that might not exist in 5 years. And then there are the workers. Imagine spending 15 years on a Nissan assembly line in Smyrna, Tennessee, doing your job right every single day, building vehicles you were told people wanted, and then getting a letter saying your position has been eliminated because the executives who ran the company into the ground already cashed their stock options and walked away clean. That is happening right now to thousands of families across Tennessee, Mississippi, and the entire supplier network that feeds Nissan's operation. The parts makers, the logistics companies, the small shops that depend on those factory paychecks circulating through town. All of it starts drying up. We saw this same story play out in 2009 with General Motors and Chrysler. Entire communities that were built around those factories watched their local economies collapse when the plants went dark. Property values dropped.
Small businesses that depended on those workers spending money in town shut their doors. Some of those towns, more than 15 years later, still have not fully come back. The auto industry does not have to work this way. Toyota proved it. They refused to chase fleet sales. They did not gut their interiors to save $12 per vehicle. They invested in reliability, kept pricing within reach for real buyers, and built cars that hold their value for a decade. It can be done. The problem is that doing it requires leadership that cares more about the product than the next earnings call. And that kind of leadership barely exists anymore outside of a few companies. The correction that is coming will be painful. Brands will disappear. Dealerships will close permanently. And millions of buyers who overpaid for underbuilt vehicles on predatory loan terms will be left holding the bag with no trade-in value and years of payments still sitting in front of them. The executives who made these decisions will land on their feet. They always do. But the workers, the buyers, and the small-town dealers who trusted these brands with their livelihoods will be the ones who pay. Remember that brand you see in every neighborhood? The one parked in every apartment lot and every grocery store parking lot from coast to coast. That brand is now on life support, and the companies behind every other badge on the road are walking the same path Nissan paved. Nissan's next round of emergency talks about the company's future are expected before the end of the year. Subscribe so you get that breakdown before the press release buries the real numbers.